its consumption. The fight against tobacco production and consumption was today at the center of debate as Uganda joined the rest of the world in marking the World No Tobacco Smoking Day. The burden of tobacco smoking in Uganda appears to be growing, considering the number of deaths and infections being reported. The latest reports indicate that 13,500 Ugandans die each year because of tobacco smoking, and the number of people suffering from diseases linked to tobacco is staggering. The Ministry of Health has indicated that the tobacco industry is frustrating efforts to control consumption by frustrating legislation through offering bribes to lawmakers and putting demands on government. Government is drafting a tobacco control policy and a tobacco control bill, but many people remain skeptical, saying that such laws will be useless if not implemented. 5 years ago, public smoking was outlawed through the enacting of the Control of Smoking in Public Places law, but today people still smoke unabated, putting hundreds in danger, given the fact that a passive smoker is more affected than the actual smoker. The campaign to control tobacco production and consumption will negatively impact on revenue collection and livelihoods of farmers. Reports indicate that in 2011, this last year, tobacco exports fetched $70 million while 80 billion shillings came in taxes, and direct incomes to farmers totaled about 70 billion Uganda shillings. Uganda is host of the new Center for Tobacco Control in Africa, where the continental efforts to deal with the challenges of tobacco are being commanded from. So as we commemorate this day, we reflect on the fight to control tobacco. Pardon me. As we commemorate this day, we reflect on the fight to control tobacco, looking at the options that Uganda should take to deal with the growing burden related to its consumption. Our guests tonight, Professor Robert Machangu, World Health Organization Senior Advisor in charge of tobacco control. You're most welcome, Professor Machangu.
Thank you very much, Edmond.
We're also joined by Professor William Bazeyo, Dean of the School of Public Health at Makerere University. You're most welcome, Professor Bazeyo.
Thank you. Good evening.
We're also joined by Dr. Possy Mugyenyi from the Center for Tobacco Control in Africa. You're most welcome, Dr. Possy Mugyenyi.
Good evening, listeners.
Well, we are also joined by Mr. Richard Baguma, coordinator of the Uganda Health Communications Alliance. You're most welcome, Mr. Baguma.
Thank you, Edmond, and it's nice to be back again.
Dr. Machangu, Professor Machangu, how bad is the tobacco situation in Uganda?
Thank you for the question. The tobacco situation in Uganda, I can say it is not good, because in the last few years we have seen more and more tobacco being produced in this country. We have seen Uganda becoming the center of trade of tobacco leaf, promoted by the tobacco industry. We are getting statistics that some 13,000 people are dying every year because of tobacco use. And more statistics will be given by my colleague, Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, who has been doing quite a good research in the area of youth tobacco smoking, and also in the production sector in as far as tobacco production is concerned, and the situation of the farmers who produce tobacco. So in general, I can say the situation is not good, and it needs to be addressed, and addressed urgently and very restrictingly. Thank you.
Professor Bazeyo, can tobacco smoking or tobacco consumption be justified?
I think this is a good question, and I think everybody asks this question, that why don't we allow people to smoke as a human right? Tobacco smoking cannot be justified. I will tell you that in Uganda, when you walk on the streets, you will see very few people smoking. But we know from studies that smoking is actually on the increase in Uganda. And I will tell you that from studies the school has done, all the cancers that have reported in Uganda Cancer Institute, which is in Mulago, we did a study last year and showed that 73.2% of all the cancers were related to use of tobacco or tobacco smoking. So there is no way we can justify that tobacco smoking should remain.
Well, but some people say when they feel cold, they light up, they smoke, and eventually they feel very, very well.
That's true, that's what they say, but that's not true because it's not true.
Medically.
It is just psychological. Because they say they smoke because they're feeling cold. But we know that smoking is actually addictive. Once you are a smoker and you believe that it helps your stomach, somebody says, when I have indigestion, I take a cigarette. And others say, when I feel cold, I take a cigarette. There is no way we can demonstrate scientifically that smoking warms up people or warms up anybody's body.
So they should just call for the next pullover, a sweater. They should forget about lighting up.
They should forget about smoking.
Dr. Possy, could you talk to us about the extent of this burden on the country's health system?
The burden on the country's not only health, but on the country's economy, on the country's environment is very, very bad. The burden is very high. Because, as you have rightly said in your opening remarks, there is a report from the WHO which looked at all the countries and looked at the number of people dying every year from different risk factors. The number of people in Uganda who die every year as a result of smoking and its related effects are up to 13,500 people. 13,500 people is more than like an annual intake of Makerere University. Is more than the voters, the total number of voters in one constituency. These are people who are dying in their productive life. On average, smokers have a reduced life expectancy of 15 years. On average, if you get 100 people who smoke and 100 people who do not smoke, the average life expectancy of those who smoke is reduced by 15 years.
So when you light up, begin to smoke, you really are you're committing suicide.
You are committing slow suicide.
Yes.
When we say in cigarettes there is poison, people say you are joking because they know poison kills you quickly. You take it, you start vomiting. No, this is slow poison. Because in smoke, there is 4,000 chemicals in a cigarette when it is lit. 4,000. And of these chemicals, some of them are very poisonous to our bodies. We have tar. Many people know tar. This is the chemical that is used to make roads, stomach roads.
The dark
chemical.
The dark one. Yes.
And when you have been smoking for 20 years and you look at the lungs of the smoker,
they're black inside.
They are black. Because when you smoke and push in the smoke, this tar keeps depositing on your lung tissues over years. It looks like, when you go to a kitchen where they use firewood and you see this dark soot.
You don't find many of those in Kampala, but in the villages, the grass touched.
They are there.
Up there.
So the lungs of the smoker look exactly like that kitchen in the village. But it's so unfortunate that you can't open your lungs to see. But those of us who have been in the postmortem rooms to see people who have been smoking and they die of lung cancer, the lungs exactly look like that. So the burden is very high. And it is not only medical. The burden is not only medical. The burden is even economical. Because you have been reading statistics of the money which comes from the tobacco companies. Thank you very much. This money actually does not come to support the economy. It goes through Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Health, and goes to Cancer Institute Mulago to treat the victims of smoking, to treat the cancer patients. When you go to the Heart Institute, to treat the heart diseases, diabetic cases, tuberculosis cases. When you count the amount of money you need to treat all those cases, it is far more than the money which comes from the cigarettes. So what is the rationale of collecting so little money from the cigarettes and you need more money to treat the victims of this chemical? And I want to inform the listeners that actually cigarettes, yes, when you smoke, you feel a little good because the nicotine which is in the cigarette gives that feeling.
Gives a kick like this.
Yeah, in the next 5-10 seconds when you smoke, the manufacturers add on another chemical called ammonium.
Yes.
That chemical is meant to...
Supposed to be using it for fertilizer, I think.
Yes, that ammonium helps the absorption of nicotine quickly. So in the next 5-10 minutes, it's already in your brain and working on you. And you feel that good. And you know these drugs, you know, cocaine, marijuana, tobacco, when you take them, you feel good. But all of us know. Do you remember how Michael Jackson died? This is a guy who was always feeling good when he would take those drugs.
He was on his way to the next world.
Yeah, but he couldn't live. And a rich man with all those potentials, he couldn't live up to 60 years. So that's how the smokers and those people who use those drugs, that's how they do. They die prematurely because their organs are damaged slowly. In 20, 30 years, they start see
they begin to pay the price.
Paying the price.
Maybe finally, before we move on, somebody has said that if you want to see what it means to smoke, get a white handkerchief, put it against the cigarette butt, then begin to smoke. When you pull once, when you make one draw on the cigarette and you look at the handkerchief, you see a burnt kind of surface there. It gives you an idea about how much nicotine you actually take into your lungs. Is that accurate?
That is actually the chemical that darkens that cloth is the tar I'm talking about. The tar, when you puff once through a white handkerchief, the white handkerchief turns dark. And that is a single puff.
It goes inside. If there's no handkerchief, it goes inside.
It goes inside your lungs. And if you increasingly put on the 1 day, 2 days, 5 years, 10 years, how do you think your lungs will look like?
Well, listeners, this is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, should Uganda consider banning tobacco production, given the challenges that linked to its consumption? Our guests tonight, Professor Robert Machangu, World Health Organization Senior Advisor in charge of tobacco control, Professor William Bazeyo, Dean of the School of Public Health at Makerere University, Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, Center for Tobacco Control in Africa, and Mr. Richard Baguma, Coordinator of the Uganda Health Communications Alliance. You two will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Richard Baguma, what do the laws say about smoking? If it is such a bad thing, why should it continue to exist legally?
One of the things is that even where substances have been banned, they still get consumed. So the law is one thing, education and sensitization is the other. The law in this country, if it exists at all, is very weak, is an understatement, is almost useless. We I think, have a provision which has been on the books for many years, more than half a decade, to say that you should not smoke in public places. I have been to public places. I am not going to mention, because some of them might be your advertisers, big, serious hotels, and serious in the way I think. They don't enforce this at all. I think it's placed inappropriately because it's in the National Environment Management Authority. I don't think it should be placed there anyway. I do not think the enforcers even are aware. So it's a weak, unknown, and very ineffectual provision for that we shouldn't smoke in public places. However, my hope is that there is a comprehensive law now being pushed in Parliament, and that's where we come in as the media, I think, as communicators. I think partly we have been very laid back and hands off regarding this question of consumption of poison, because for me I call consumption of tobacco, yes, consumption of poison. Right. We have been laid back and hands off as journalists, and I think probably we don't know, but even some of us who know have, I think, not paid attention to it, and we need to pay more than serious attention to tobacco control. We need to push, at least push that the law goes through Parliament. We need to do that. Let what is existing be enforced, but let's push for the first of all, for passing of one. And you know why I'm worried, why I'm really worried, is that we are getting into the time of budget. We have been in the ERA elections. We are getting into the time of budget.
Yes.
All these bills are going to be forgotten and pushed to the back. But what I know is that when the media will push, it will not be pushed to the back.
All right, we'll talk a little bit more about those bills and what they mean in detail. Professor William Bazeyo, you are the Dean of the School of Public Health of Makerere. If someone comes to you and they're a smoker and they want to quit, what tablet do you give them, what injection, so they can go away and they won't smoke again?
Edmond, that's a very good question. I wish I had a tablet, because last night I would have given it to one of the industrialists in this country who believes that smoking is better than having Bovera in this country. He argues and says smoking is better, leave smoking and the fight Bovera. But coming back to your question, there is no single tablet. But I believe there are mechanisms for us to make those people quit. Testimonies we have had this morning and everywhere. When do people start smoking? That's the most important thing. Most of the people that have started smoking through peer pressure in schools, primary schools, secondary schools, and higher on. That's where communities meet of the same age and they discuss and they say, what do we do to make a difference? So for me, the peer is at the point where we start smoking. Now, as my friend Mr. Baguma says, that we need enforcers. Enforcement is for those who are already smoking, those who are in the business of smoking, those who smoke in the hotels. But we need a bill or a law that will help us to reach the communities, to reach the people, the right target group. I'll give an example. When HIV came here, the whole president and his entourage embarked on it. It was a song, and after that, a campaign. We need to go that way. Everybody, every child, every youth in primary school, secondary school knew about HIV. We need them to know. That is sensitization. We need to go to our teachers. A teacher who smokes makes many children smoke. So if we can get that group that gets in contact with the youth, and then we get our political leaders to embrace it, our leaders, then the message will be that tablet. And that tablet will work very fast.
And if someone is already smoking, can they control? I know some people have dropped the habit. I dropped it myself many years ago without any medication, many years ago, more than 20 years ago. And I know someone who stopped about 1 year ago and has been counting the amount of money he's saved. He lives somewhere in Asia. Is it possible? Talk to us about that. For someone to will to stop smoking and they actually do it.
They do. I must say that talking to them, they do. There is the cessation program that Possy may talk about, that we are working on as a center to run in the different countries. And I asked Possy to actually supplement on that program when we start it, if you give him a chance.
Yeah, he'll talk to us about that. Professor Machang, what are the trends worldwide? Is smoking rising or is it falling?
There are two phases to that. In the developing world, and I'm speaking about Europe and America, United States, some parts of Southern America, and even in Asia, smoking is going down. And this did not come naturally. It came through campaigns, came through education, and it came through law, like what Mr. Baguma has been talking about. In the developing world, unfortunately, with the exception of a very few countries, tobacco use, and I prefer using tobacco use than smoking because there are many other ways.
Some people simply chew it.
Sure.
Or sniff it.
Unfortunately, on our continent, smoking has been, except for a very few countries, either has stabled or it's showing a tendency to go up. And I'll give you the reasons why. One of the reasons is that because until lately, the biggest consumer of our products were the Europeans, the Americans, and others. And because those laws have taken effect, the industry is looking for new market in the developing world, where there is a lot of ignorance people, sorry I have to use this term, but also where people kind of get attracted. They pretend to need that industry. Our governments, they get token offerings from these governments and they invite them as foreign direct investment. You know this, everybody's talking about foreign direct investment, and they bring the tobacco industry wholesale They give them land, tax-free tariffs, tax-free holidays. And these people are making terribly big business. For that reason, they can afford to advertise, they can afford to sponsor people, sponsor events, they can afford to promote their activities in any manner which is deceptive, making people think that the industry is a godsend. And this has made our children, our youth, fall trap to the beautiful pictures advertising. Unfortunately, Uganda doesn't advertise anymore, and I would like to contract.
In the US, they used to have the Marlboro adverts, billboards on freeways, indicating that was a high, many years ago.
In this country, it doesn't happen anymore, and I would like to commend that effort, and I would like to see a little bit more into that. So, and briefly, we are at kind of a dire situation where smoking is not going down, rather it's kind of
stabilizing or going up.
Stabilizing or going up.
All right. Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, does tobacco have any alternative uses?
Yeah, before I go to that, I just want to supplement on what Robert has just said. South Africa, which is one of the countries where the center is supporting, we were there last week and we had a meeting with the officials in tobacco control, and they showed us data where between 1990 and to date, the prevalence of smoking reduced from 33% to 23%.
In South Africa?
In South Africa.
10 percentage points.
10% reduction, and the main strategy which they used was increasing the taxes for tobacco products. When they increased the taxes,
cigarettes become expensive.
It becomes expensive, so the students
can't afford it.
Cannot afford
it. In some countries, they say you can't sell it by the stick. It has to be a
that is another strategy they picked, because for them they passed their tobacco control law long time ago. They documented so many people who had been dying of smoking and other tobacco use habits. They increased the taxes very significantly, and they put in place a regulation that you cannot sell a stick, you can only sell a packet. So the students, the people who don't have a lot of money, they abandoned the habit. So they saw a significant reduction of 10%. And now they are vigilant. They are out in hotels, in bars. The enforcement officers go with cameras. If they see you smoking, their regulation says you must not smoke within less than 10 meters from the entrance of any building. And if it is an outside place, you must go away from wherever there is anybody. Even in the gardens, you cannot smoke where they are. You must go to the extreme end where you know you are on alone and there is no roof above you, so that you don't contaminate anyone. And so the whole purpose is that people find it inconveniencing to travel a mile to look for a smoking area. So they say, let me abandon. So that's a success story. But back to the question, does tobacco have other uses? We know that tobacco does not have any significant use.
There's nothing. You can't use tobacco for anything. Not even as fertilizer.
We have been told that we can get some pesticides, that agriculturists can make some pesticides. If the agriculturists can get pesticides from tobacco, we wouldn't have a big problem.
But let the people stop smoking.
Yes, other than that, there is no benefit from tobacco that is known in science, that people can smoke and then have this benefit or the other benefits. It's not there.
This is Spectrum on Radio 1. Tonight, should Uganda consider banning tobacco production given the challenges that are linked to its consumption? We're going for a break. We'll be back.
Wait, turn off the music. Guys, please, no like cows. My wife is calling and I told her I was going to the farm.
Honey, how is the farm?
The farm is very fine.
And the cows?
You can hear they're grazing.
Well, next time tell them to eat grass and not beer. I'm seated behind you.
Hi, honey.
Unlike humans, structures built with Hima cement don't lie. Different types of projects require different cement. We offer the widest range of cement products in the market and are most preferred by all kinds of builders. So if you're thinking about building, think Hima cement. Hima cement, part of you from the start.
Voices and the sound of Africa. One love, one spirit, one heart in Africa. See the beautiful sunset of Africa.
Celebrate Africa with one rate, one Africa from Airtel. Call across all Africa at a flat rate of only 10 shillings per second. That's right, 10 shillings per second all day, all night. And stand a chance to win a fully paid trip for two to Mombasa every week. Another reason to celebrate Africa in proud association with Fly 540 Airlines and Serena Hotels. Terms and conditions apply.
Airtel. John, Mike and I, we go back a bit. We knew John at the beginning, working for someone else. But he was different. He had vision, saw opportunities. He started working towards his goal, opened his own garage, and worked, learning the hard way. His reputation spread. Trust, consistency, quality. Soon people were coming to him from all parts. He made himself and his whole street prosper, and also helped friends, seeing potential in people and helping them on. But John never shouts about all his success. He's just who he is. Special.
So here's to men like John, who make a difference, who enjoy Nile Special, the rich, satisfying taste from the source. Nile Special. You've earned it.
Not for sale to persons under 18.
Spectrum on Radio 1 FM 90.
Welcome back, and on Spectrum tonight, should Uganda consider banning tobacco production given the challenges that are linked to its consumption? Our guests tonight, Professor Robert Machangu, World Health Organization Senior Advisor in charge of tobacco control, Professor William Bazeyo, Dean of the School of Public Health at Makerere University, Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, Center for Tobacco Control in Africa, and Mr. Richard Baguma, Coordinator, Uganda Health Communications Alliance. You will be able to call in and contribute to this discussion. Mr. Baguma, talk to us about these two laws that are supposed to be brought, the tobacco control policy first and then the tobacco control bill. Talk to us about those two.
You know, one of the things that that comes to me, and I was saying the other day, that this is the bill that is in Parliament, is a private member's bill. And for me, I was saying that's an indictment on government. Because why should it be a private member to bring this? Surely, it should be government to bring this. I think they should be responsible to bring this. But why? Because somebody is not doing it, the private member brings it. And I'm glad that, for example, the Center for Tobacco Control really is supporting this process. A lot of people are behind this process. We all support this process. And for me, I thought the ministry should have taken it over and pushed it and driven it. Sure. So while I'm glad that this law is there, it provides for these things, there is input going in, I think that it should not be a private member's bill. Really, for the importance that it holds. Because, you know, this process of law here, they say, okay, bring the financial implications, then you know you have to justify. So people can drag their feet. And we know the tobacco industry uses these tricks, uses these people to slow down things or kill them altogether.
Or they take them for seminars and give them good per
Yeah,
diem. What do they do?
You're talking about gifts. And you know, some of them look very innocent.
Like what?
They come and say, look, we are going to support afforestation.
Yes.
Very, very genuine in climate change, carbon. And then they bring young people to plant
the trees.
Absolutely. School children, and this looks very nice things. Yes, t-shirts, caps with their logos and what. What are you doing? You're making this thing look good in the minds of these young people. Scholarships. They will provide scholarships. And what do you think?
Tobacco scholarship.
Oh. So for me, that the second thing is the policy. I understand the policy is going on. We organized a media dialogue yesterday. I've had on TV, on television, and on radio, especially Dr. Ndyanabangi from the Ministry of Health. But you also see that because the policy is a government process, the law is a private member's bill, there is a disconnect. But it is because these individuals are working together, but not institutional working together. Right. And I feel sad about this.
Right.
And for me, I think that this country should be paying more than enough attention. We are killing ourselves, but also killing our children, and killing our country and economy. really.
Well, the government some time back banned electronic adverts on the radio and television advertising for tobacco. Was that not good enough?
Oh yeah, not good enough. It is good. We must certainly give credit where it is due. And it's not just only on electronic media or roadside advertising. I think advertising has gone, really. But there are several other methods of promotion that the tobacco industry uses. Look at sports.
Yes.
Oh yeah, they will be there to promote sports.
Give them jerseys.
And you know who will be there? Who goes to the rugby pitches? Who goes to the basketball pitches? These are the targets, the one they are targeting. This is it. I mean, building a ward. They will come and say we build a maternal health ward in a hospital. And all of us in the media will go to report about this very magnanimous tobacco company which is building a ward in these days of maternal deaths.
Right.
So these things, it must, the advertising must go beyond roadside and electronic media. It must go all the way. Promotion and not just advertising. This all, for me, I think should be banned, really.
All right. Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, talk to us about the arguments that this tobacco company normally advance. How do they explain it?
Again?
What's their logic, their rationale, their argument when they defend themselves?
Their logic is very simple. They are driven by profit.
Now, when they explain themselves, in a boardroom or whatever, conference, how do they justify tobacco smoking or usage?
They will justify it mainly based on the economic point of view.
Yes.
Their argument is always saying we pay taxes, we are supporting the economy, we are supporting 30,000 farmers and you want to push them out of business, we are paying so much to the treasury and this one the government cannot do without. That is their basic argument. They acknowledge that tobacco is harmful. They have accepted to put these messages on their product because they know it is true that tobacco kills, tobacco causes heart disease, tobacco causes cancer. They know it. Now, the reason they continue to make good arguments, all of us who have studied history, somebody would argue that why would somebody make a case to sustain slave trade? They were people who were arguing for slave trade.
Because they made money from it.
They made money from it. But some people woke up and say, no, irrespective of how much we are getting from slave trade, this trade is inhuman and we must stop it. Actually, the people who were promoting slave trade, they are in the same communities. Some sober people came up and said, no, we are getting money from this, but it is bloody money. The same argument should go for, look at cocaine. If you go to Southern American countries, they are they are people who are surviving on cocaine trade.
They can buy helicopters.
They can buy helicopters. But the global community has said, yes, there is money in cocaine, but we cannot legalize cocaine because we know at the end of the day, it destroys young people. By the time they are middle age, they are gone. It causes crime. It causes all sorts of unhappiness. So, the whole argument is that these companies, the tobacco companies, are actually owned by multi-millionaires, global.
Philip Morris.
These guys are very, very rich. So, for them, the whole world is seen in the eyes of money and profit. And they do not care what, because you find those company owners, they don't smoke.
Yes.
Those top company owners, they actually don't smoke.
They know the secret.
They know the secret. They know they are selling a dangerous product. They don't smoke. In fact, you need to go to the tobacco companies and actually do a survey. You will find that majority of the staff do not smoke.
Right.
The managers do not smoke.
Well, but some of them will say, you allow people to drink alcohol, and why should you stop them from smoking?
Now, we have to make a distinction. There is a distinction between, all these have problems. Alcohol has problems. But the difference between tobacco and alcohol is that when you use alcohol in limits which are acceptable,
it's good for your health.
Take a glass of wine, it will probably not harm your health.
It helps digestion.
Yes. Take a glass of wine, 1 beer a day. The science has not documented any harm.
There's an advert saying a certain spirit, I won't name it. It is good after a hard day, you are relaxing. Instead of taking water, you cannot take a glass of this.
And actually, we have noted that out there, people who have both habits, who are taking alcohol and smoking, they have a double jeopardy because the body is knocked by two bad agents. So the whole point is that tobacco, if you take it according to the recommendations of the manufacturer, it will still kill you. If you take tobacco according to the prescription of the manufacturer.
Unlike with alcohol.
Unlike with alcohol. So we say tobacco is the second problem with tobacco, how it differs from other.
Right.
Tobacco is the only product we know of that kills bystanders.
Oh, people on the outside.
Who are not.
If you're drinking your alcohol, it won't kill the one watching.
It won't kill anybody.
Taking a Coca-Cola next to you.
Yes, Coca-Cola, it will kill. But tobacco is the only product we know that kills an innocent bystander.
Talk to us briefly about idle smoking. How exactly does it work? A man is, taking his cigarette on the other side. How does it affect the men around him and women?
Now, when you use a smoke product, there are smoke and smokeless products. Now, the smokeless products affect probably
that's the tobacco that you chew.
You chew, sniff it. Now, when you use the smoke product, which produces smoke, this smoke, you can't swallow it. You swallow it, but it has to come out.
Yes.
Now, when you push it out, puff it out,
somebody else takes it.
Somebody else must take it, because it joins the environment.
Yeah.
When it joins the environment, somebody picks it, and he's affected. Now, if we are 5 of us, if I'm smoking, all of you are as bad as me.
Passive smokers.
You get that smoke. If you are smoking, honestly, your wife will be affected like you. Your children, if you are smoking, you are in a car. The people in the car are equally affected. You are in a bar, in a restaurant, you are smoking, people around you. So that's why tobacco differs, because it affects people who are not concerned in the crime.
And alcohol does not. If you're taking your whatever, and another man is taking a glass of water,
yes,
they're not participating.
Then look at tobacco. It is the only product we know of that people can comfortably consume in a toilet.
Oh.
Yes.
Talk about it.
It's the only product I know of that people comfortably go to the toilet and consume.
So it can't be a good thing. Interesting. Professor Machang, what things can the government do to help that it's not doing at the moment? You come from the World Health Organization.
Yes, I think the government has one primary role, and that is, first of all, education.
Yes.
Information and communication of the facts we already know that tobacco kills, and kills certainly. Not only when you use it, but also for the person who is sitting next to you if you're a smoker, as Dr. Mugyenyi has always said. We have the benefit of the fact that back in 2003, the nations of the world, having known the dangers of tobacco, they got together and established what we call the Framework Convention on Tobacco Control, which was adopted by all. At that time there were 194 countries. Now one more has increased, 2 in fact, Sudan and North and South. And they all adopted that it's a good thing to control tobacco because of the scientifically proven evidence. Now this convention has been ratified up to this date by 175 countries. Uganda did ratify back in 2007. By ratifying, you mean that I'm going to take this convention and internalize it in my laws.
Yes.
And implement it for the benefit of the people.
Right.
Now, the government has got that support, that instrument, that commitment which the government has done. It is now time to show that the government is serious in what it has committed itself in. And that is what the government should do right now. What Dr. Baguma is saying, let the law come. At the end of the day, the private member is going to meet the government, and I'm sure they're going to go into harmony and get a national tobacco control law. Comprehensive. It won't be talking about only smoke-free public places. This is just one article in the convention. It will be talking about advertisement. It will be talking about taxes. It will be talking about children handling smoking. It will be about automatic machines which are being placed there.
Right.
All these things have to be out to have a tobacco-free world.
All right, let's hear from our listeners. This is Spectrum Radio 1 tonight. Should Uganda consider banning tobacco production given the troubles that are linked to its consumption? Our guests have already indicated we have 2 professors, 1 doctor and 1 veteran journalist, Richard Baguma. You can call in now. Our number 0414-348-111, 0312-260-390, 0312-226-1390. When you call in, please tell us your name and where you are calling from. Professor Bazeyo, talk to us about the possibility of What does the future look like when you look into the future? What does it look like looking at the trends?
Thank you, Edmond. I think I have a lot of hope. Why do I have a lot of hope? We have a useful...
Okay, I'm interrupting you so you can hear from one of our callers. Spectrum, hello? Yes, sir, your name?
My name is Paul.
Paul, yes. Do you switch off your radio, Paul?
Okay, it's okay now?
Yeah, go on. Your radio, please switch it off, then you can talk to us.
Now, Edmond.
Yes, go on.
I think.
He was a minister at some stage.
He was a minister?
Yes.
He died of throat cancer, and you very well know he was a chain smoker.
All right. Okay, Doctor, Professor Bazeyo.
Thank you once again.
Okay, let's hear them all. Spectrum, hello.
Hello?
Yes, sir, your name?
This is Andrew calling from BNP.
Andrew, yes. Okay, anything else we can get from tobacco? Spectrum, hello? Okay, Professor Bazeyo. Spectrum, hello? Yes, sir, your name?
Good morning, I'm Richard.
Good evening, Richard.
Yeah, now. We're looking on that.
All right. Yes, Professor Bazeyo.
Come again on the question.
Well, Paul said you can't justify the sale of poison. He says Dr. Chivirige Sebunya died because of smoking, throat cancer.
Yeah.
And then Andrew asks, is there anything else beneficial from tobacco? And yes, sir, your name?
Kenya Church Ambrose.
Yes, Mr. Kenya.
Yes, I agree.
All right, let's get back to the studio. Professor Bazeyo.
Thank you very much. And for Paul, I'm happy that you note that we have lost prominent people. We have indeed lost prominent professors, including my professor Wamukota and others who are great. They died of smoke. So smoking is not only for those who do not know. I think it was echoed by you when you talk about sensitization, and I had said it earlier. We need our government to put in all it can so that we sensitize the people. The people need to be sensitized. Earlier on, or maybe Possy had said it, if you stop smoking today, you are better off than somebody who stops a week later.
Explain that to us.
Sensitization is very important.
Let's get one fact here. When you stop smoking, the effects stay with you, but it takes time for them to wash out of your body.
Yes, correct. But when you stop a week later, in that week that you are smoking, you actually depositing in your lungs, depositing on your vessels, depositing in your heart. So you have that reduction if you reduce or you stop now. So sensitization is key. We have lost prominent people, and that's the reason why our government should come out and say we own this. I'll give an example. Australia is, the Minister of Australia said she would rather die instead of having people going on smoke. They are advocating for total pictorial packaging, where the whole packet of cigarettes is covered
as a
by
scary
picture.
image
Yes.
of bad lungs and so.
And when you talk of having the laws for my brother Bukenya, Church Ambrose, I'm sorry. Implementers are very necessary. In our country, we have the best laws and policies. Everybody tells us when we travel, when you go to conferences, they tell you Uganda is known for these policies. I think we need now to turn the coin around and say, how do we implement them? I will give you confidence that our institutions, Makerere University is doing a great job.
Right.
We can use our institutions to spread this information and sensitize at minimum cost.
Minimum cost at Makerere. Mr. Baguma, talk to us about these laws, some detail about these laws, even as you respond to some of the other questions.
For me, the things that should be talked about, one is we must provide that sensitization, that education, that information and communication is not optional. It should not be optional, it should be mandatory. That the institutions of government should be doing this, budgeting for it and carrying it out. That advertising and promotion, because for me it's beyond just advertising, and promotion should be banned, and this should be enforced. That
they should not sponsor sports.
No,
not even the Sports Press Association.
Oh, please, not at all. And he just talked about labeling of packets and packaging of tobacco products. Why do we put? You know what is in the law, the current law?
Yes.
Oh, it's, I think, says 19 by 19 centimeters, and why do you? And it should be displayed 60%. That the no smoking sign can be displayed 60%, but the smoking area sign should be displayed 80%. Why do you want the smoking area sign displayed bigger than the no smoking one?
But the taxes.
What is that law that you're making? So that these displays, for example, in public places, must be in all public work and public transport places. No, I mean, why, if you are operating a public transport vehicle, doesn't matter whether it's a special hire or this orange bus, they all must display prominently no smoking. It should be that the institutions, the educational institutions, should include tobacco control education. And these things, for me, should be in the law.
Right. Professor Machangu, give us your responses.
Yeah, there was a question here by a colleague about marijuana, or can we get anything else from of benefit from tobacco? I think this has been clear, that we don't get anything from tobacco as a user. Nothing. As the industry, you make the money, but we cannot sacrifice our lives for the benefit of others. And I'll ask you one question. Who amongst us would rather sacrifice his beloved person, a child, a wife, husband, to the smoking so that the government gets revenue? Who is prepared to do that? I don't think anybody will.
You won't see any hands up, probably.
No hands up. On marijuana, you see, the only difference between marijuana and tobacco use is that marijuana shows its signs of destruction within a very short period of time. If you start smoking marijuana today, people will see. In fact,
so people begin to walk sideways. They begin to act
your behavior changing, and you start hitting people. You start biting into people, and this is what we call, this is dramatic, and that's why people get scared. But when people started using tobacco, we didn't know what it was. You get that good feeling, you say, okay, I feel good. Until 10, 20 years, you start feeling bad, and you're feeling very bad, but you cannot stop.
It's too late, probably.
Because the addiction has held on. You cannot stop.
And even if you stop, the impact is already there.
Sure, we talk about doctors. People ask, why are doctors smoking? They know everything.
Doctor, how can a doctor smoke when they know it's bad?
Yes, how can a doctor eat?
You already told us it's the only commodity that is consumed in a toilet. You don't know. Talk to us about that. Why do doctors smoke?
He already told us. One of the doctors was my teacher. He smoked and he would come in class and smoke and
then tell you cigarettes are bad.
Tell us cigarettes are bad, and he couldn't stop because he was addicted. And the point of doctors smoking, they start when they are still very young, before they become doctors.
Yes.
When they are in primary and secondary school, because their friends say let's smoke, they start. By the time they become doctors, they know that smoking is dangerous. They are addicted. They cannot just stop. They keep doing it because the addiction compels them to do so. But I want to give hope to the smokers. One, Professor Bazeyo has asked me quickly talk about session. There is a program that we want to start in the School of Public Health to train healthcare workers and other professionals and counselors how to help people to quit smoking.
Right.
We want to start that program. But even before we start, smoking, when you stop smoking, in a period of 5 years, your risk of getting the problems reduced by half. In a period of 15 years, your risk is not there.
So
you are reverted back to normal.
It takes 15 years to heal from
whatever you are. Like you who said you were smoking 20 years ago. Now you
won't find a single thing.
Now you are clean. So there is hope that those who are smoking, don't say I'm already dead. You can stop. When you stop, there is hope that your organs will revert back to normal.
After 15 years, we have to end here. Thank you very much, dear guests. Professor Robert Machango from the World Health Organization is the senior advisor in charge of tobacco control. Thank you for coming to Spectrum, sir.
Thank you, man.
Professor William Bazeyo, Dean of the School of Public Health at Makerere University. Thank you very much for coming tonight.
Thank you, Edmond.
Dr. Possy Mugyenyi, Center for Tobacco Control in Africa. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you, listeners, and Edmond.
And Mr. Richard Baguma, coordinator of the Uganda Health Communication Alliance. Thank you for coming tonight.
Thank you very much, Edmond, and good evening.
Thank you for tuning in. I've been your host, Edmond. Kizito. Spectrum will be back tomorrow. Up next is the news in English.
It's all here for you to experience together. The big explosion. The grand room.